Hi everyone. So now let's see type of scheduler in process management. So if you are watching this video, then first you should have knowledge, or I can say idea of what is scheduler. Okay, so must watch my video of what is scheduler in process management, so that you will understand what is scheduler, what are the queues that in operating system to manage different manage processes. Okay, so you should watch. So now let's go ahead over here. Type of scheduler: whenever particular process is admitted to the ready queue. Okay, so ready queue is basically queue of it is a collection of processes which are waiting for its turn to get CPU. So whenever this particular process, which process to select in ready queue. Okay, so basically in the system there are various processes and we cannot allocate all the process to ready queue. So the process of selecting which process to allocate or which process allocate to admit to the ready queue, this task is performed by long-term scheduler. Okay, so basically I can say that long-term scheduler define degree of multi-programming in the system. For example, if long-term scheduler select 3 processes in the ready queue. Now basically ready queue is memory. Okay, it is your primary memory in which all the processes first needs to be load before its execution to get before getting CPU. Okay, so ready queue is basically just primary memory. So task of long-term scheduler is to select number of processes to get load into your primary memory, or I can say in the ready queue. So which algorithm is responsible for degree of multi-programming in the system? So answer is long-term scheduler. Now whenever long-term scheduler is running, so whenever this scheduler is active, so this scheduler algorithm, it should select mixture of processes so that I can say all the resources get busy in process execution, and I can say CPU should not be idle. So if long-term scheduler select all the CPU processes, okay, or I can say if it select all the IO process, then what will happen? Either CPU will be busy forever or IO will be busy forever. So CPU is idle. So this should not happen. So long-term scheduler, it should select mixture of the processes. Okay, it should select CPU bound processes and IO bound process, mixture of both. Now once this process comes to ready queue, okay, so after that dispatcher comes into the picture. So task of dispatcher is to give the control of CPU to the particular process which is selected for its further execution to get CPU. So who will select particular process from the ready queue? So answer is short-term scheduler. Okay, answer is short-term scheduler. So task of short-term scheduler is to select any process from the ready queue and dispatch it to the CPU, that is your processor, and it can execute its process and exit from the system. Now there are various reasons. For whatever reason, if this process is not completed, that means this process have to wait for some time to get CPU again. So in that case, if it is waiting for some event to occur, then it will be goes into the blocked queue. Okay, so this is another queue which is maintained whenever particular process is suspended or it is waiting for some event to occur. And once this event occur, again it is admitted to the ready queue. So whenever from blocked queue to ready queue, whenever particular process is selected from blocked queue and some event occur, so it should be admitted to the ready queue. So which process to select? So this task is comes under the duty of a medium term scheduler. Okay, so these all are the three types of scheduler: long term, short term, and medium term. Now let me reveal the suspense of its name. So its name is long term, short term, and medium term. So what does it mean? So long term scheduler, that means frequency of usage of this scheduler is very low. That means it is active in long duration. Okay, its role is minimal in the system, but it is important. Okay, so because it defines degree of multiprogramming. Whereas short term scheduler, which is very frequent in use. Why? Because CPU is, whenever CPU switch to another process, short term scheduler needs to come in the picture, and it has to select particular process from the ready queue and assign it to the processor, CPU. Okay, so short term scheduler is very frequent in usage, and medium term, so it is in between long term and short term. Okay, whenever particular process is interrupted due to whatever reason, so this is allocated to blocked queue, and whenever this particular reason for what it was goes to block queue, that particular event occur. So let's say there are two events waiting for printer, and they got the printer, so two processes are released from block queue. So medium term scheduler now comes into the picture. Which process to select? Either both or one or two, first or second. Okay, so it is the task of medium term scheduler. So if some event is not occurred, then it may be possible that due to timeout this process is interrupted, and again it has to come to the ready queue. So in that scenario also medium term scheduler is arrive. So now let's see the difference between this long term, short term, and medium term scheduler. So first one is, it is a job scheduler. Okay, so long term is also known as a job scheduler. After that, short term scheduler is a CPU scheduler. Now why it is? Because this short term scheduler is performing swapping, or I can say it is selecting process for CPU usage. Okay, that is why it is CPU scheduler. It schedules the CPU. After that, minimum term scheduler, it is process swapping scheduler. Okay, why? Because whenever particular process is released from block queue, then swapping and swap out is performed. Okay, so this is swapping scheduler. After that, it select a process from a pool and load them into memory for execution. So load them into memory for execution. So this task is performed by long term scheduler. After that, short term scheduler select the processes which are ready to execute, and medium term scheduler, it can reintroduce the process into main memory and execution can be continued. As I have said, it can be either if time slice is expired, or due to some another reason this process is interrupted, and if again a particular event occur, that means it is reintroduced in the main memory. Okay, after that, long term scheduler is less than short term scheduler, so it is talking about frequency of usage. Okay, after that, short term scheduler, speed is fastest among the remaining two, and medium, as name suggests, it is in between both. Now long term scheduler is minimum, or I can say absent in time sharing system, because in time sharing system all the processes are handled firstly by the short-term scheduler, so that is why it is absent. And in short-term scheduler is also minimal in some of sharing system. Medium-term scheduler, it is part of time sharing system. Okay, let me put one point. You just need to remember one point. Whenever particular process is interrupted by whatever reason, for whatever reason, okay, it never directly comes to get it can get CPU. It has to come to the ready queue. Okay, let me show you in this diagram. So you can see whenever process is being executed by the CPU, so it cannot directly goes to again this. Okay, so it has to come to this ready queue. It has to wait. Okay, it cannot directly get CPU again. So this is all about type of scheduler. Okay, so I hope you understood this, and thanks for watching. Tintin, bye bye.